Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the third edition of the mini series on the Colombian 2022 elections. We're going to do a very wonderful episode about abstentionism. In other words, not voting, which is often a misunderstood, not very well understood, and not very well researched or looked into option. The idea that maybe you shouldn't even vote at all. Sometimes because in this particular election, all the options are bad, but maybe it can even be a more ideological stance to never vote because you think that the act of voting itself is invalid. And over here we have someone who's gonna talk to us all about that. Please introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Well, hello, Klaus. Thank you for having me on your channel. You have been a long friend for a long time, and I'm more than glad to be here with you. Today, we're going to talk about abstentionism from a right wing perspective. My name is Lucho. I present myself as that. I am Colombian. I am quite young. I'm in my 20s right now. And what I can tell you is that I don't support voting. I think that voting is immoral. It is against God's laws, and it is a contradiction because you are giving sovereignty to the people and not to Jesus Christ first, which will be our focus on today. So, what is abstentionism? As Gloss said, it is the act of not voting, not participating in a democratic endeavor. Why? I tell you that the best option for you as a citizen will be not to vote. I think that the best option is not to vote first because there are a loss of time. You know that human beings have temptations, and those temptations will go on to perpetuate the errors of democracy, which will be to think that persons that don't know themselves, don't have their best interests in mind, can elect anyone, which will be a bad person, a good person, a corrupt person, a fraudulent person to take in office, and that is an error. Second, because you would be better doing other stuff like doing charity, helping others, by private unions, yeah, which will be better. You could pray, you could go to church. Like there's better use of your time rather than voting. And I think that the first idea that we tell ourselves that it was the will of the people. Well, who are the people? The people of Colombia. Well, who are Colombians? Well, Colombians are us. Yeah, it is us. Do we have our best interest in mind? I don't know. Have we chosen the best of representative of governors? Maybe not. There's a ton of corruption. Oh, well, then in the next election we would figure it out better. Maybe it is not in the next election. Maybe it is a case of a systemic abuse, of a systemic issue that is with it. So when you decide not to vote, you decide that you're not gonna partake in this system, that you're not gonna partake in this error, and that you know that the people have not the best interest in mind. The best interest in your mind is in God's mind. It is according to the church, it is according to your priest, it is according to eternity. The state must be ordained from the eternity in order to see it from eternity as a human institution. So when you see that the elections take part every 4 years, or every 5 years, or every 2 years, it depends on the office, it depends on the charge, you see that it is not ordered from eternity. It is ordered from people that don't know themselves, don't have their best interest in mind, that they don't even are informed or have the knowledge enough in order to take positions or to administer, and that there is no responsibility because there has been cases like George W. Bush made the war in Iraq, and then nobody was responsible for it. What happened with those type of crimes, with wars? Like nobody's responsible for it. In a monarchy, if the king messes up, he's responsible. You know that he's responsible, and you can go for him. In a democracy, no one is responsible. There was the crisis of 2008 and 2012. Nobody was responsible for it. So you see that there's no responsibility in democracy, and then it is not ordained in God's mind. It is not ordained for eternity. It is just ordained for the next 4 to 6 years. The other thing to criticize is parliamentarism, how parliamentarism is ordained. You see that there are various political parties And these political parties, they are discussing themselves, right? They are trying to discuss and see where is truth. And then out of this discussion, supposedly truth arises. But what would need to happen? The political parties would need to merge into one that follows the truth. Because if truth is divided, if truth is relative, then it can be false. What do I mean by that? If I tell you today that this ring is circular, he was circular and he will remain circular. But if that is relative, relative to time, relative to form, relative to anything, it's not independent, it depends on another thing, then it will change. So it will change way too much and it will not be circular and will not be a ring. So if truth changes, then changes so much that it becomes a lie. So what yesterday was truth, today is a lie. And that happens with the discourses. So you have the parliamentary, right? And the parties are discussing and they reach one truth. Then that truth should illuminate all of the parliamentary and focus in one body without just one political party. But there's these divisions and no one knows what is truth. And then yesterday's truth is today's lies. So it is not meant to be ordained for the future. It is not meant for eternity. It is just meant for the moment. And if you just focus on the moment, you're not gonna organize a successful society. You're just gonna see what are today's needs, what people want today. And then what you're gonna do, you're gonna play with people's needs. You're gonna play with what people want. And that is not just, that is not correct, that is not moral. That is basically giving yourself. That is basically even into temptation. That's how the devil works, if you see. The devil knows that you want money, he gives you money. God knows that maybe it is not the best for you, so he takes less of it. And that's basically why democracy, not only in its origins as a revolutionary ideology, but in how it works, it perpetuates itself as demoniac. So I would say that the best argument to not vote is that it will not change the situation in your country. It will perpetuate this corrupt system. It will perpetuate lies. It will just see from now on that it will not be ordained for eternity. And last but not least, it will only give into relativism, which we know is true is not truth. It is basically a lie. Because if everything changes, then something there is that needs no to change, and that is truth. But then if you say that truth changes, it will be a lie. So you're telling me lies. And that's why democracy leads to relativism. It leads to division between the political parties, between the peoples, and you see that people don't identify themselves as a unity. And who is the master of division? Satan. Satan is the master of division. And in order to see what is real, we need to unite. We need to know, well, I may be a liberal, for example, but I am first Colombian. I may be a conservative, but I am first Colombian. I may be a Republican, but I am first American. I may be a Democrat, but I am first American. So you have these false identities that are made into these political parties or political ideologies that basically just torment the people. And you see that this didn't happen nor happens in monarchy. In God ordained monarchy, a monarchy that falls into the church, a monarchy that falls into Christ. The people are united under one monarch. The monarch has his own council and they guide him, but he makes the final decision. In case that the monarch falls off, then we take him down. We're gonna put his brother or another of his family there. It is long-term thinking. There is a lineage. There is a lineage of monarchs, of patriarchs. There is a lineage of people being ruling this place, and they have a future to seek for. And they know that if they mess up, then the people are gonna riot and are gonna put them down. Or maybe the aristocrats. The aristocrats unite themselves and put another king. And that's why you have this type of control right there. That is very personal. You know the king, the count, who rules. But in democracy, well, there is this ministry, then the other ministry, then it changes for person. It becomes so impersonal, and you see the Max Weber's theory of bureaucracy. The actual bureaucracy, which we have right now, is very impersonal. So there is no type of responsibility or accountability to the people. And that's why monarchy is superior. It is ordained by God. It follows a narrative and a history. It has its own interest in the people developing. It respects more the property and the rights of the people because they either, if they are liberal or what, they are first the people of the kingdom. So yeah, I think that theocracy would be the best theocracy. You know, as Saint John of Kronstadt said, hell is a democracy and heaven is a theocracy. Heaven is a monarchy. I will see that a monarchy like with the Romanovs in Russia, or you can see that Austro-Hungary, the Austro-Hungarian Empire gave Menger, gave von Mises, a ton of thinkers from Vienna in the beginning of the 20th century. It was better. It was better. So in democracy, you have basic corruption pulling itself out, or as Thomas Aquinas said, democracy is just taking original sin and multiplying it by the people. In monarchy, you have only one person and their sin. In democracy, you have a ton of people and their sins, and that multiplies evil. So I would make that as an introduction clause.
Thank you very much. So we'll get on a couple of questions and comments. Jesucristo says the monarchies in Latin America are dead. BHJ says, I'm so confused. I don't think it's that hard to understand. You just want to go back to the old school days, you know, basically before Bolivar, pretty much. Maybe even before that, you know.
Yeah.
So this comment about monarchies in Latin America are dead. I mean, dynasties come, dynasties go, but nothing is really preventing a new sort of Hispano monarchy, I guess, or dynasty from creating, other than the fact that people are to nowadays way too into democracy for them to want to return to monarchy. So you've kind of had to convince them to go back into it. How would you think they'd be able to manage that?
Well, I think that we're talking here uh from what we want, and we need to work with what we have. So right now, I see very difficult. It's very difficult to go back to a monarchy right now because of all the international order. Like you see what happened with Libya, you see what happened with Iraq, Afghanistan, what happened with every country that takes a stance of democracy. So I would say that it would be the best, but we will need to work with what we have. And I would say that the best would be not to vote, not to partake in the system. And the best way is to always, from a theoretical and practical point of view, mock democracy. Democracy is a system that has proven itself to be horrendous for the human race. So the best thing we could do is form families, be our own monarchs in our families, be men in our churches, take care of your kids, of your family, and that's how you build the nation. As Aristotle said, a nation is a union of tribes, a union of cities. Sorry, cities are a union of tribes. Tribes are union of families, and each family has its own patriarch. So I think that that will be the best way to see it. And how do we do that? We don't have political power. First of all, our ideas are not that popular. And the third one is that uh, it would have a lot of backlash. So I would think that the best we could do is to be Christian men, get married, ask God for help, avoid sinning, confess, partake in the sacraments, and to be a monarch in your family. And the other thing that we could do is to propagate the ideas. Propagate before every change in politics, there was a change in culture and a change in ideas. You could see that, for example, Lenin, who is, well, I think that he's burning in hell. Like Lenin's brothers, he was a writer for Narodnaya Volia, which was a magazine in Russia that basically spreaded the revolutionary ideas of the communists, and he was killed for that by King Alexander, I think, in Russia, and he made that in 1871, like 4 years before the revolution. So every time a new revolution arises or a new change, I would say to be better, arises, it comes from ideas, and we could partake in these ideas. There are various philosophers who have talked about this, from
I was gonna
Catholicism.
ask you about that exactly. So, what are some books, essays, writings? What where can we start in order to learn more about what has influenced you?
Well, I would tell you that there are various. Uh, I am gonna write to you here on privately, so you can put them. Alvaro Diors. It will be Thomas Aquinas. It will be Aristotle. It will be Carl
Any
Schmitt.
any works in particular?
Well, from Thomas Aquinas, I would recommend. From Aristotle, I would recommend Ethic to Nicomachus to learn how to be a citizen, basically, because that is important. In order to know how to govern yourself, govern your passions, you need to for to govern, you need to govern yourself, right? I would say from Thomas Aquinas, I would recommend his Summa Theologica in order to learn how to think properly. You need to think properly. From Carl Schmitt, everything from him. Carl Schmitt has criticized parliamentarism and democracy in the best of ways. From Alvaro Diors, which is a writer, a Spanish writer during the 70s and 60s, he wrote about basically how democracy malfunctions and how the Roman system was better. He has he has a paper called Judicialismo, which is basically how he thinks about how the law should work. Judicialismo. It is appears like that by Alvaro Diors. It is the best of critiques that I have seen of democracy. Um, what else? What else? I think that would be the best just to start. There's a ton of works. So yeah, I think that would be like the best critiques coming from the right, from Carl Schmitt, Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas, and yeah, Alvaro Diors. I would think that the well, there is a book, but it is on Portuguese that I am reading right now. So it is by Padre Lionel Franco, or Leonel Franco. A Crise do Mundo Moderno. It's a very good book on explaining the philosophical roots of how the world has fallen off, and I think that it is great in explaining the liberal ideology and how it works. Hmm. I would say that from a spiritual vantage point of view, it will be from Seraphim Rose, Nihilism. Yeah, that will be a really to explain how liberalism is illogical and democracy is basically, yeah, illogical. So as a beginning and not too well, Alvaro Diors is more centered about law. Thomas Aquinas about thinking. Aristotle about society. Carl Schmitt about ideology. Padre Lionel Franco about philosophy, and Father Seraphim Rose about philosophy and spirituality. So in that way, you could see that the critiques come from all around these sources and these sciences, so that it can be tackled in the best of ways.
It's perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate the required reading list, so you guys can get into that. Now, in the background, before we started this live, we actually talked about a very recent development in Colombian politics that actually benefits the case that you're making. So, just like all the other people that I've interviewed, my second question would be, what are some of the recent developments in Colombian electoral politics? And I guess we can start with that we mentioned in the background.
Yeah, there in Colombia there is a case that is happening right now. There was a protest last year that were done. Well, I understand the reasons because of the lockdowns. People were locked down. They couldn't work. They couldn't eat. There were poverty rised, unemployment rised, and people felt basically a need to express themselves, and that is very normal. That is very natural. The thing is that it took a way that I didn't like, to be honest, and it was that uh, it took more of a communist socialist endeavor in order to tackle the government, which I think that is worse, more revolutionary than what we have right now. So it harmed a lot of property, it harmed a lot of cities in here in Colombia. And the thing is that the government realized that it was done mostly by young people, people from 16 to 28 years old, more or less, that were finishing their teens and entering into their 20s because of the unemployment that is here. Is is very prevalent. So what did the government thought? The government thought that by including this mass of people from 16 to 28 into the political system, I would mean by giving them charges, by giving them offices, by them partaking in in the democratic process, they would calm down this anger, this anxiety, this type of sentiment of exclusion that they felt from the political process, and then more riots would not happen because they were in, right? They thought that, that those were the demands. Like, if you don't want if you don't want them rioting, then include them. So what happened is that it was a total failure. It was a failure. Why? 12 million voters, 12 million potential voters, 12 million citizens who could vote for these councils of youngsters. Only 1 million voted. That is 10%. Only 10% of people that could vote went to vote for these councils of youngsters in politics. What has that has to say about about Colombia? We are very abstentionists, and I am glad. I am glad that that happens. I am glad when democracy fails. I am happy when that happens because that means that people are no are they are upset at the system. They know that the system is failing. They know that the system is not going anywhere. They know that basically this need more changes. You know, we are in a bad state right now. We're in bad shape, and getting these young people that basically don't know what to do, they don't have their registers in mind, to get into offices, into charges in the public sphere, it is not the best. It is not the best. So the thing is that as they tried to include them, they failed. Nobody showed to vote. Few people were chosen, and their functions, nobody knows what they're gonna do there. I think that not even themselves know what they're gonna do there. It was just out of emotion.
I mean, if there is something that I do know that they're gonna do is take money from the government, i.e., the taxpayers. That's what you get elected for in Colombia. That's like a job. It's like you get elected to a job. It's kind of like the weirdest job interview in the world. It's a sort of an election. But yeah, and I kind of find it very condescending when people talk about the historically low voting turnout in Colombia. It's like, oh, people don't appreciate their democracy. You guys know that in some countries you're not even allowed to vote. And I'm like, well, thankfully for them, they don't have to worry about that shit. And I tell people I used to live in the UAE. That's not a democracy. A guy, it's one guy and his family run it. A lot better run than my country, which is opposed to a democracy, and it's certainly better in some ways in the U.S. where I'm currently at right now. So, and actually, in one of my classes in this semester, we actually talked about the nature of democracy versus monarchy because a lot of the students are obviously American or American based, and so they obviously have these very normal sort of political views that everyone expects you to have. It's like, yeah, democracy is great, and it's great to have choices, and it's great to have your voice heard and whatever. And then we got deep into it because we've seen that democracy doesn't always mean what people think it means. In some contexts, like in the Middle East, democracy really just means that Islamists get to power because that they are the most popular bloc. So inevitably, they end up subverting democracy and then trying to install a Sharia state. In other cases, democracy actually means severe repression of political minorities. Well, quote unquote minorities, they actually tend to be the political majority, like in Iraq, where Saddam Hussein tried to oppress the Shia because the Shia wanted to kind of get closer to Iran, establish a sort of more theocratic system, and so democracy in his Iraq was really just about preserving a sort of Arab nationalism and an Arab liberalism and shielding it away from the actual popular will of the people in his country, which was to gear towards Islamism. So then we started talking about the Gulf states, which obviously have some human rights abuses. I'm not going to say that they don't, but I in many ways wouldn't be studying here at an expensive university without my father working in the Middle East. In these Gulf states, they do provide some security, they do provide some jobs. They're less degenerate than most countries, for the most part. That has changed very ever so slightly very recently. But when I was there, I mean, my school was gender segregated. For crying out loud, can you imagine a gender segregated school? Lucho approves. Exactly. No, I mean, so it's definitely something interesting to look into, to kind of just question your assertions that you've been raised in all your life. It's always important to do that. So obviously, the third question that I usually ask is, what is your voting strategy? But then again, you don't have any. So I guess a more interesting question is, what are you going to do on voting day?
Well, yeah, if it is Sunday, I hope I will be at church. I will be praying because I know that every person that is sitting on power, they are put by God, as Saint Paul said. And Saint Paul, well, he was basically killed by that power, but he knew that that power is instilled by God in order for us Christians to learn. Sometimes God allows wicked people to get in power so that we Christians learn more humility. Sometimes there are very good governors, sorry, that help the church. But I know that the church will be eternal. Like a guy may come and go, but the church will be eternal. The war spins, but the cross is there. So I will, if it is Sunday, I will be at church. No worries about it. If it's another day, I may be working, writing poetry, everything. I remember there is a beautiful quote that I always remember by Ernst Junger. I am reading here a ton right now. He because in Nazi Germany, Goebbels reached him out and he told him, "Hey, do you want to be part of our Congress? Hey, you will get a ton of votes." And you know what that he told him?
What do you say?
I would rather write one good poem than represent 40,000 stupids.
Damn, that was the roast, bro. What a roast.
That is, yeah, man. I think the same. I would rather write one very good poem than partake in democracy. And I have offers. I have been offered by various political parties. I am not gonna say names here, but I have had. So I am. I was telling like, no, sorry, I am not gonna help you. I'm really sorry.
Funny enough, I was also offered some entry into Colombian municipal politics literally just a week ago, which is kind of weird. I don't know if they're doing this thing where they're reaching out to Colombian Twitter users and they're like, "Hey, you seem to be rather popular. It's like, do you want to?" And honestly, I didn't want to do it because first of all, I don't even live in Colombia, so what's the point of like how am I going to represent a place that I don't live in? Which I feel like tends to happen a lot in American politics. A lot of politicians move from one place to another, and then they act like they've always been from there. It's a thing they do over here. I don't know why. And second, I'm in my mid 20s. What the hell do I know about managing a municipality? I'm way too young for that. And I told him, I may consider that like 10 years from now, but like I'm too broke, too stupid, and too not wise to even start to think of doing this. It's just and so it's even
Exactly.
funnier that you have all these young kids, the kids that are like 21, 22. They want to get into politics, bro. Try to get into life, bro. Get out of here with that nonsense. Not saying you shouldn't learn about it, but being involved in it is kind of weird. Like as you said, there's so many better ways to help out your community, and I've shown you guys how to do it. We've done more than 3 episodes on just how to get actually in your community and go and help out and ask people, hey, what do you need? Like, let's do this, let's do that, let's bring out books, let's bring out Bibles, let's bring out, we have to pave a road, if we have to bring in a teacher, and between all of us, hacemos una vaca, and we'll pay them a salary, like a monthly salary, teach the children. Like, there's so many ways that, and that's the great thing about what you're doing, because you're showing people the way out that does not involve going to the polls, right?
Yeah.
And that's a very important thing, especially in Colombia, because Colombia specifically is a very sort of messianic country when it comes to its politics. Everyone thinks that if we just elect the right person, all of the country's problems are going to go away. And we've seen this most specifically with Uribismo and Petrismo. You know, even an American should understand this, that even before the cult of Trump or the cult of Bernie or all these kind of like quote unquote political cults that have occurred in the US, this has been a thing well before in our country. And
Yeah.
some people have different reasons as to why this is. They'll give you different explanations. I can't really honestly tell you why this happens. I can just tell you that it does happen. And it seems rather stupid to me because it feels like to me there's a lot of battered wife syndrome where the people get disappointed again and again and again by the system itself, but they'll never actually question the system. They're like, no, 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 the next guy will sure fix my problems. And it's kind of it's also a bit of a perversion on hierarchy because they're not putting their trust in a religious hierarchy or in a community hierarchy. They're putting their trust in a political hierarchy, one that has only ever betrayed them all their lives. They've only ever known betrayal from the political system, yet they go back to it. So it the sort of brainwashing that we see from the political establishment is very effective. If anything, I'll have to grant them at least that they've been able to convince the people to be skeptical of religious authority and to be skeptical of familial authority, to be skeptical of communal authority, but to never really be truly skeptical of political authority. It's something that I've kind of noticed
Well,
here.
I have to make a few comments of that because you're really right about that. The thing is that I think that politics here, especially in Colombia, they are made upside down. I think that the best way there is an economical term that I know that you know, and it is the cost of opportunity. Like if you are doing this, you are not doing that. What I mean, right now I am basically talking with you. So why I'm not talking with I am talking with you, I cannot write a poem at the same time. Like your time is limited. You can only do certain amount of stuff. Opportunity cost. That's right. And the thing is that if you are in an office, in a charge as a youngster, right? You are in your 20s, you are not working, you are not forming a family, you are not helping others, helping your neighbors, getting to know them. You're not with them, right? And what is the funny thing about this is that it should be done the other way around. You help your neighbor, you help in your family, you help yourself, and then you are known in your municipality, in your neighborhood for being the good guy, the guy that helps. And then you get elected. It should be like that, not the other way around. That once you get elected, you're gonna help. No. You first help and then you get elected. Or then you get in the office. But if the other way around, then you don't know if that person is gonna be integral, if they are gonna help. You know. I have not read the comments, so I'm gonna see them. Oh man, Inquisitor. Oh man, many blessings to you. No, bro, I am just a sinful guy who just wants to repent and is looking more into Christ. You know, I am just a moral guy. I am just dust. Nothing else, nothing more. Man, I wouldn't call myself wise. I sin way too much. Christ is wise, and Christ, when we repent and we look for Him, He gives you a bit of knowledge, and we should use that to help others. I think that is the way. Well, I think that once I finish this point, I'm gonna tell you how I came to the Greek Church, to the Greek Patriarchy, and how I came to Eastern Orthodoxy. But first, I wanna tackle this. The thing is that uh, it is very personal when you are in your neighborhood, right? When you see, sorry, like, oh, this the better. When you know who you are electing on who is in office, you know their history, right? You know where they went, where they went to college, where they went to school, who are they sons of, who do they meet with, who are their friends, what are their habits. It is personal, right? You know them. right? So you know if they're gonna do a good job or a bad job, right? But the thing is that with democracy right now, it is very impersonal because it is not direct from the people. I was in Greece. It is from political parties, people that you don't know, that don't live in your neighborhood, that may have business outside of the country or outside of the municipality or the city or the town. People that you only know their name. You only know their name and the political party. You don't know too much about them, about their proposals. You don't know what is different about them. And with the internet, it has become more weird because they can change the images. They can apparently help others, but they are not helping. They are just taking the photo and uploading it, and so you can see that it can be more dishonest with the internet because they can edit these moments, so you don't know them. It is very impersonal, and in that sense, democracy fails, or at least the form of democracy we have right now, because it is from political parties and not from the people itself. And even if it will be from the people, it doesn't come up down from God, but just down to down up. So I think that there is a very bad problem that we have right now. We don't know who we are electing. Like what happened with the president. Do you remember Klaus? Nobody knew who he was.
Yeah, that was kind of like the funniest thing because, as I've told you guys before, so Uribe could only get elected twice. First, the first time, and then a re-election, and then he wasn't able to get a third term due to the Constitution. He tried to continue his legacy by choosing Juan Manuel Santos as his next guy. He ended up betraying him, and his next successor is someone that we had never really heard of in Colombian politics, which was Duque. I think he was a former banker at the Bank of International Development, El BID, and I think that was kind of like the safest option. Maybe Uribe wanted to go for like a nobody, so that it's. I guess it's kind of like what the Democrats did with Biden. They wanted to go with someone who wasn't really controversial, although obviously Duque was much less known than Biden. So that way, when his candidate inevitably squares off with Petro, he was gonna have less scandals on him, and so people will be like, "Well, I don't really know this guy very well, so he can't be that bad, right?" He ended up being a bit of a disappointment as usual, and we're kind of stuck with him until just a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's a big part of democracy. If you're skeptical from the get go, from the beginning, you know that it's not gonna be good. You're not gonna partake in it. You're not gonna vote. What are you gonna do? You're gonna pray. You're gonna help your community, help your neighbor. You're gonna do real stuff. You're gonna do real stuff for your people, for your family, and you're not gonna waste your time with it. You're not gonna mind about it. You're not gonna give a second thought to it. If you know it is immoral and it is sinful, you get away from it. You just mind your business.
And we have more ways than ever to really do what you're saying. We have the rise of cryptocurrencies, anonymity, connectivity. I mean, just look at two examples. The raffle that you did in order to help out with your brother's phone, and then another one where I met this guy Don Pollo via Twitter, and pretty much every 6 months or so nowadays I go to Malambo and like help him out, tell him, "Sir, what do you need?" He's like, "Yo, we need this, and that." Obviously, I help him out right now as well. I helped him out like a month ago because some old lady needed like a wheelchair, so we just donated to that. Boom. Like we didn't need a politician for that. We just did it on our own. And that's kind of like the community building revolution, evolution, explosion, whatever you want to call it. Guys, we have literally too many ways of helping our fellow human beings out, our fellow brothers in Christ out. So all it takes is you. All it takes is for you to be willing to use all the tools that we have been given. Because we did not have this ability, hell, even 20 years ago, right? We just did not. But now we do. So let's make sure we use our tools as best as we can and in a way that edifies Christ. But with that being said, so my next question is, even though you're not really involved in the politics world, who do you think is nevertheless most likely to win?
Oof, tough question. Tough question. I would say that right now, mm, let's recap what has happened. Right after the lockdowns, there has been like a ton of inflation here in Colombia. Well, in all over the world, because the countries just started to print a lot of money, and that is hurting savings, the common people, and it is prices are rising. Right, so this makes like a social unrest. I have seen it and I have suffered the rising prices, of course. So what I would say is that right now there is a ton of division in the political parties because people don't trust them anymore, which is good. The thing is that there are a lot of movements. Is They're not political parties right now, but a lot of movements that are happening. And so there's like 30 political candidates, and there are a ton, right? 30 is a big number. So the thing is that I would say that right now, what's coming forth is Gustavo Petro, who is he's not winning. I'm not saying he's winning, but he's like one of the most representative ones because he's Chavista. He supports Chavez. He has said it. He's basically more or less of a socialist type of guy, and he has his economics very badly organized, even though he's an economist, right? He was part of the guerrillas. He was part of M19, and I don't trust him because if he wins, I fear a military coup d'état, and that would be like very dangerous, or a civil war, I would say. Um, who else? There are other people on the left. He's on the left, like Robledo, who is basically pro quote unquote internal development. He supports an agrarian reform. The thing is that with an agrarian reform, you need a good grasp of the country, and we don't have that. We have paramilitaries, guerrillas. We have even now the Mexican cartels getting in Colombia. So I don't see that as viable, but he is another representative of the left. Dissident groups. I would say that we dissident on which part? On the left or on the right?
I think he means just politically in general. I don't. I think maybe he means like fringe groups in politics, like groups that you can actually call far left or far right, like objectively speaking, and not just smearing them as such.
I would say that we don't because on the right we don't. Sorry, there are young people that are united under the Hispanismo, Carlismo, Hispanism and Carlism, that they are trying to revive the Latin Mass. They're trying to revive the pre Vatican II type of worship. I am friends with them, even though I am not under the Vatican. I am under the Ecumenical Patriarch. I like them. They are really wise young people. Even though we have our theological difference normally, but I would think that that is organizing itself, but more of a religious type of movement, but an ideological one, but not a political one. Right now, there are people that are trying to make it from a Carlista type of view, and the other ones are the new right, more of Alain de Benoit. I'm gonna write the name for you right now so that you know who he is. Like
Yeah. Yep.
more of these, how I would say it, this against postmodernism type of right wing, like yeah, this that is fighting feminism, third wave feminism, that is fighting against it, and wants a more mm, hero type of government, like a hero type of government, like a caudillo, right? Like caudillism, like personalism. They want more or less like that from the right. So I would say that in the left, I see Petro winning in the left, right? No, not in the not in the elections. On the right, I would say that it's not clear because right now, who is on the right? Vargas Lleras. Who else?
So as far as I know, it's the Coalición de la Experiencia. So it would be people like Peñalosa, Fico. I think Alex Char might be
Echeverry.
running. So and guys, this is literally as and Uribismo is quote unquote the furthest right we go, and it's really just kind of like semi-conservative social democracy. So as
Yeah.
Lucho said, there really is no
No,
genuine
right.
far right in Colombia. That it's not really a thing here. Despite what other people will tell you, no, we don't have a far right. That's mostly like a European thing. I feel like people like Casa
Yeah.
Pound and shit like that. Like that. That's probably a European thing.
Yeah.
Other than that, in let me see in Hispanoamerica, uh, who can you
It
call far right?
disappeared. It evaporated. Bukele maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps good.
Well, I
Um,
would say that from the right here in Colombia, I see the representative being Alex Char. Maybe he will not get involved, but he would put someone. Maybe he would put. I don't see Fico winning, to be honest. I don't see Fajardo winning. Fajardo was a teacher. He's more of this type of ecological education type of guy, but he will not win. I see Echeverry, who was basically the the what? He was administrating Ecopetrol, which is the biggest uh what is the word? No. I will I will not be viceroy inquisitor. I think it will be too great of a burden on me, to be honest. I will need to first get married, Then we see what else God wants from me. So yeah, I think that right now, as of right now, on the right, I see maybe a fight between Echeverry, Vargas Lleras, and who else? I don't know to call him right because this guy interests me and he's very weird. Rodolfo Hernandez, he's weird.
¿Ah, el loquito de Bucaramanga? O
Sí,
Barranca.
sí.
Yeah, yo, that dude is. I like to call him the Nasball candidate because like
Yeah,
he said both things in favor of Petro and in favor of Uribe. So it's like, bro, this guy is like
yeah,
literally.
he's weird. He's like a
Yeah, he is
schizophrenic.
weird, bro. Yeah,
Yeah, but
he is fun though.
yeah, the thing is that these candidates, they are more or less like into political, ¿cómo que se dice? Uh, Political correction, right? PC culture, like, oh yeah, the candidate, your candidate, and I don't like that. I like Hernandez because he's very rude, very outspoken, very honest, very he's gonna tell you what's gonna tell you, without any type of correction. He's like, I don't know, like someone from rural Texas that is about to insult you. He will be like that.
Yeah, he's just and we need more of that because and that's one of the things about electoral politics too and electoral democracy. A lot of it feels fake because you have to appeal to the most common denominator, and so you don't. And at least back in the day, that meant at least appearing to be Christian, which can have some benefits. But nowadays, the trendy thing is to be woke and progressive. So now you have to pretend to be a little woke and pretend to be a little progressive. I even made a tweet once. I think I said something like in 2030, el Centro Democrático is gonna be all about like inclusive pronouns and like don't say negro, say Afro Colombianics or some shit like that. Like that's what's gonna happen, bro.
Latinxers,
Yeah, yeah,
Latinxers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just a lot of nonsense, and it's always good to have someone that's very very old school, who was kind of born and raised in an era before that nonsense, before it was able to be indoctrinated. He just tells it like it is, just to kind of like piss off these little snowflakes
Yeah, like
here and
in
there.
order to get into a position, a political party, you have to say, "Oh, I am in favor of feminism. I support women working all their young days, so that when they are old, they can be part of, but they cannot have families and they cannot be mothers. Yay! Oh, I support ecology. I would say prayers to the Pachamama and reject Christ as our savior. Yay! Yes, I support." And then you gotta accept all of these. Uh, these contrary type of things, or suppose like indigenism, like say like the Chibcha, they were transgenders or stuff like that. It is so awful. It's like politics degrades the human soul. Democracy degrades the human soul. That's what I would say. Like when you see this kind of stuff, it is very very awful. So yeah, I see from the left Gustavo Petro, and I see from the right maybe, if we can call him, well, from the right I see maybe Echeverry or maybe Peñalosa, and from the center, because he's too weird to be classified, I see Rodolfo Hernandez. But yeah, I would say that politics are gonna get really weird, because whoever wins is gonna have a really great burden on his hands, because Colombia right now is very very fractionated. The crime is rising because of what happened with the lockdowns. Poverty is really big and rising prices. So we are like in the best of situations for a really bad government or something very extreme happening. As I told you, I think that we are gonna go back to the 50s, when there was like a clash between the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party, like it's type of civil war kind of stuff. But I that's my theory, but I don't know if it will play out. Let's see.
Damn, that's crazy. Um, I'm not sure I'm ready for for a throwback to the 1950s, but hey, if we got to do it, we got to do it. So the last question I usually ask them is, tell us why people should vote for your preferred candidate. But obviously, you're not doing that. So I guess the revised version of this question is, tell us how we can skip politics altogether and help out the community. So, what are some ways in which you personally have been able to do that? So that way people can follow your example.
Well, I would say, well, I am not of a great example. As I said, I'm just a sinner trying to make things right, you know. So I would say that one thing that I try to do, and I don't know if it'll be okay. Well, I'm gonna show you a part of my room. So let's check it out. Right here, I have an icon of San Basil the Great next to my iPad, and I have two piles of coins that I have right there. You can see some basil, you can see the Virgin, you can see Jesus Christ right there, and you see my iPad, some basil, and the coins. So why do I do that? I have those coins so that whenever I go to out of my house, I will give money to the poor. Like I will have like some coins to give to them. I think that that is not too much, but it's a way to help. And I try to tithe, to give 10% to your church. I think that is another way of helping. When I was with my mother, I used to help my little cousins with their to learn to count, to learn to help them with their homework, to teach kids how to read, to give to teach them how to write. You know, because these kids, they're always on their phones. They are listening to TikTok and listening to reggaeton and to bad music. Like, bro, I want my cousins to be learning. You know, I don't want them listening to Maluma or listening to Sage. I want them learning real stuff. You know, then I would like help my cousins and learn stuff basically. Another thing that I like to do is that every time I buy clothes, or I buy, or my mom buys me clothes, we do this. We make an inventory, right? Inventario. I don't know how to say it. Inventory, would that be right?
Like an inventory would, yeah, I think that sounds correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and we make an inventory of the clothes that are coming in and the clothes that are coming out. So I give my jeans, my shirts, to charity, basically to charity. So I will make like four jeans, 4 to 5 shirts, and I will give them to charity. I think that's one thing that I do. Every time I buy a new phone, I give the older one. So I don't sell it. I just, if one of my cousins need it, or a neighbor or someone, there you have it. It is for you. Or every time I buy a new computer, the older one, there you have it. I just give it away, you know, and I just don't mind about it. I do it and I don't mind about it. But the only thing that is in my heart, that maybe one day I will be like that person, you know. Today you are up, but tomorrow you could be down. You don't know where the help is gonna come. And remember that we are everything that is in this life. It is from Christ to Christ. We are just administering. So I think that it will be to be a helping hand in your family, to your neighbors, to have money to give to the poor people, to tithe, to give 10% to your local church, to give your own clothes to charity. I think that is good. I have not been able, well, maybe to expand, but I think that I will, God willing. But that's how blessings come and go. If you just have your own possessions and you don't give, you don't receive. It is like a closed hand. In a closed hand, nothing enters, nothing goes out. But if you open your hand, blessings come, blessings go. That's a good way that I like to put it.
That's wonderful, man. That's a great advice, and I keep telling everyone, just start with the small stuff. You know, if you see someone who needs food or needs clothes, and you got the ability to do so, go right ahead, help them out. It's super simple because a lot of people want. So some people on this channel and others, they want two things which are contradictory. They want something very grandiose and elaborate and super. You know, these guys like, oh, I believe in like anarcho, fascio, socio, capitalisto, this thing, monarcho, and they want this super elaborate political system, which is fine. They can have that. I'm not saying it's a bad idea or anything. But then they also want it to be done tomorrow. It's like, oh, I want it now though, and it's like that. Those two things are contradictory statements. You can't want something that is very elaborate and very complex and super intricate and has a lot of things going on in it, but you also can't want it in a fast time span. That's not possible. And so I always have to keep reminding people that whatever your political views are, you need to start with the basics, the absolute very, very, very basics. Humility, faith, charity, brotherhood. These are super simple things that you can start doing right now. You don't need a politician to help you do those things right now. All you need is the will. That's all you need. Okay, so guys, let's keep it simple in this first, when you're building the pyramid or whatever, the structure, whatever, you have to start on the base. And the base has to be very well built before you can do anything else. Because if the base is faulty, the whole thing falls down. You guys know about architecture. So that's pretty much all the questions that I wanted to ask you. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about before we wrap things up.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about this, then end with Inquisitor's question about orthodoxy. Is that all right?
No problem at all.
Well, I think that what happened here is a very common thing in the internet, right? It's very easy just to be on Twitter, to read about, I don't know, Julius Ebola, or to read about these kind of right wing guys, and they be like, oh yeah, patriarchy, nation, right, nationhood, yeah, about these big ideas, and it is good, it is good. Every person has his own illusions, his own ideas, and his own conceptions. The thing is that if you only do it on online, if you only do it virtually, there is no fruit coming out of it. And as our Lord Jesus Christ told you, you will know them by their fruits. So I would think that the best you could do is to not only uh, be in this echo chamber, right? Where you say this ideology and everyone supports you. Yeah, I support fascism, blah, 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 blah. And fascism is so good. Oh, these great guys, blah, blah, blah. Or you support communism, communism, rah, 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 rah.
They're
And
trad
then
and
you are
base
basically,
and
yeah, you're in your own bubble, in your own ideological bubble, and you are isolating yourself from reality. You're isolating yourself from the day to day. You're isolating yourself from your family. You're isolating yourself from your church. And that happened to me. That happened to me. I was like, oh yeah, monarchy, so great. Rah, rah, rah. But then it's like, oh well, I need, yeah, if you're also tried, why not help your fellow man? Like if you are a for monarchy and hierarchy, obey your father, obey your mother, obey your grandpa, obey your aunts and uncles. That is hierarchy. Yeah, that's how you need to translate these big ideas into day-to-day action, into routines, into habits. Oh yeah, I am so Christian. Do you pray the rosary? Do you pray to Christ? Do you have icons? Do you light a candle? Do you help others? Do you love your enemy? Yeah, like you need to translate this into action. You don't need to, oh yeah, yeah, I support hierarchy, I support patriarchy. And what are you gonna do about it? You're gonna have that idea in there. You need to take action. So I think that what thing that happens is that it's very easy on the internet to LARP, just to make a type of how to say it, a type of fiction of yourself, of your ideas, and try to live it through while it has no real implications in your life. Basically, to wear a mask. You know, you are hiding yourself in that identity, and then you use it and change it as time goes on. And that is not real. You need to be yourself. You need to be yourself. What can it be done is that if you are so trial and Christian, then that is gonna enhance your identity and enhance your culture. Because we are sinners, right? We have our own troubles. It was really hard for me to learn how to give to charity, how to help my cousins. It takes time, it takes energy. Sometimes I am very upset because they are not learning, but I need to be patient. And that's how Christ models your attitudes and your character. And I think that the best would be to avoid being too much time on the internet, avoid being too much time just reading about ideologies and these big ideas, but to be leveled. As you read about it, you practice it. Orthodoxy, orthopraxy. We know that the word doxy or doxa in Greek means idea, right? And ortho means right, correct. Correct ideas with correct practice. Ortho practice with orthodoxy. As you learn, you do. That's how you do it. You go one step with the other, one feet with the other. You are learning to be more Christian, help your fellow man. You're learning to be more trad, then stop drinking, please, not do drugs. Learn and help others, help your family, become a good man, get married. It comes in both ways. As you learn these ideas, they are gonna model you. That's what happened with Christianity. You learn about the saints, you become more of a saint. You know, so
I think
now,
now I know now why God made us Colombians. He put us
why?
on the he put us on the hardest difficulty server. It's like, yo, these guys, I gotta drop them on the hardest difficulty server to be a Christian, cause like being and I'm not, cause obviously you're way more holier than me, man. Like you got this down. Like I'm
No,
not even. I'm not joking. Nah, cause bro, like when you live in Colombia, like the amount of sins you can experience on a
yeah,
daily basis, you can't even count them with your fingers. Like all these pretty women, all these drugs, all this
this
debauchery,
boost.
the booze, the bro, and not so much today. Maybe actually today, yeah. The violence, like, because I used to hear stories about in el campo, like people, yeah, like dudes would just get like very drunk and like, yo pues gonorrea pues hombre, and they y sacan el machete and they just people start like killing each
Yeah,
other,
they killed themselves.
like because of a power trip, and they're just like in a bloodlust, and just like this is the veteran difficulty server, guys. This is why God made us Colombians, so we can, like, you know what I mean? Like he's really testing us out here, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was talking this with before I was in the call. I was talking this with a friend of mine. Like he haven't drink any type of liquor in 3 months, and I haven't drinked in 1 month. Like I am trying to make a habit of myself just not to drink because I'm trying just to get myself sober. Oh well, this is my YouTube channel. If you want to know more about Orthodoxy, Christianity in general, life of the saints. If you want to know more about history, if you want to know more about philosophy, well, Jesucristo, you consider yourself an Indio? I consider myself a Christian. I consider myself. Yeah, that's it. Everything else is just
based
pure
answer.
blah blah blah. So I would say that in the best of ways, yeah, there's a ton of beautiful women, a ton of drugs, a ton of booze, and I'm trying. What is harnizo? What is that?
That's like, it's literally the most autistic thing I've ever heard. Un jarnizo es alguien que es entre mestizo y castizo. So they had to make like like a mestizo for in between the two stages. It's like no, I mean it's like, hey guys, I'm white enough that I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not castizo, but I'm there, bro. Like I'm barely touching it. You know what I mean?
Bro, that sounds crazy.
No. Yo.
Too much Twitter, too much Twitter. Get pray, please pray.
Hey, yeah, I love me because these are my kids, bro. I love my kids. No, but actually, the thing you were saying about people LARPing too much on the internet, I don't tend to judge a lot of these guys too much because, first of all, like 99% of the time, they're under 21. It's like, what do you know if you're under 21? Nah, I mean, you don't know nothing, man. You're just a kid, you know what I'm saying? And also, they're very lost in this
Yeah,
world because either their parents didn't raise them or didn't raise them right or didn't have any parents or it was a single parent household and then society told them all these things, blah blah blah, all the, the narratives of the establishment, and then they find this community that's very much unlike anything they've ever experienced before, and maybe they get a bit too attached to it, and then they start, kind of losing themselves into these communities. And so, if you're under 21 and you're kind of on the larpy side, I don't judge you at all. I think past the age of 25, if you still keep doing that, I think you might be suffering from delayed adolescence. I think you might have a bit of an issue. But other than that, I see a lot of lost young men who need some guidance, and so hopefully it's up to us to take them to the real path and not to the
yeah,
false path.
yeah. And I think it's opportunity, right? Because you are free. As Saint Augustine of Hippo said, uh, even if a king who has a ton of passions is a slave, and a slave who is free from passions is a free man. And I think our true freedom is in Christ. Freedom from vice, freedom from your passions, freedom from sin. Virtue is a true freedom. Justice, to be truthful, to be honest, that is true freedom. And I think that the best way is that people are free. And as they get into these communities, I don't say that they are bad or something. I just saying expressing what is happening. I think that the best would be for us to guide them, like, hey, maybe you should go to your church, to your parish on Sundays. Maybe you should talk with your priest. Maybe you should read about history, theology. Maybe you should be more humble, and just to guide them. No, not us, but Christ, because well, we're just communicating what we have experienced. Like I was this kind of larpy guy, and that led me to orthodoxy. I think that what led me to orthodoxy was basically I'm gonna enter this into Inquisitor's question. I was an evangelical when I was growing up. My mom was Catholic, but she didn't have this type of what I would say deep understanding of it. So she basically heard to the special type of discourses from pastors, and she became evangelical. I became too because well I was his kid, right? But I was baptized. I made the confirmation and everything on the Catholic Church. I have a great deal of respect for Catholics and the Catholic Church. I think that they have a ton of great thinkers. I just have like one or two issues with theology, but I most of it understand it. So I grew up evangelical more or less. I tried to, well, I had my own troubles. I drank too much. I like drinking whiskey way too much. El Olparcito y el Buchanan.
Es que
So
más costeño no puede ser.
sí, yo sí soy muy costeño, yo lo admito. The thing is that yeah, I had this trouble with drinking, and then I tried to get really really involved with the church, helping charity, helping poor people here in Bogota. But I saw the corruption on the evangelical church. I saw how the pastors took money. Now, I am not saying that all pastors are bad. God will judge them individually, but the ones that I was with, they were really, really corrupt, and I really didn't like that. It got me really mad and sad. So I started looking into history. I started reading Thomas Aquinas because of my law classes. I'm a law student, and I think that as Genadios Escolarios, uh, I'm gonna type his name, which is a saint in the Orthodox Church. He had Thomas Aquinas in a very high place. I have him too, even though we do not agree with two or three things. but I started reading Thomas Aquinas, and then I came to see a ton of debates online, mostly in Twitter, between Catholics and Orthodox, and I was like, if anyone has the truth on in life, I think that it is either the Catholics or the Orthodox. In that time, I thought that because I came to see that evangelicals, they are just watered down Christianity or businessman Christianity. Oh, if you pray to me, you're gonna get money. You're gonna get the BMW. You're gonna get like this type of Joel Austin type of guys, and I really didn't like it because in the harsh moments of your life, when your wife dies, when your cousin dies, you're not praying to God for a BMW, you know. And I think that that's Baptist type of Christianity, like Southern Baptist. I didn't like it, so I just fell off. I didn't like Islam too because it's contradictory in most of sense. It doesn't have a pretty good hold of the Bible or of history. Judaism, I couldn't reject that Christ was the Messiah. I think that I always thought that Christ is the Messiah and that Christianity is the way, but I didn't know which branch. Um, so I came out of atheism because I was evangelical and atheist, and then I returned to being evangelical because of supernatural experiences that I have, you know, and it changed my view of the world. And I know that spirits exist, demons exist, and witchery is very real. Get away from it. So I knew when I was starting my in law school that it was either the Catholics or the Orthodox, and because of basically theological issues like the filioque, the division between God's energies and essence, that I said, well, it is the Orthodox Church, and I met my Orthodox parish here where I am. It is very near from my house. I am in the choir. I'm in the choir. I try to help my priest, my godfather. He's getting married. He's getting married in January, and I'm gonna be his best man. I am really glad. I'm gonna be el padrino, literally.
Amen, brother. Amen. That's great, man.
And yeah, I think that I'm really cautious. You know, I would debate anyone, Muslims, Jews, but with Catholics, I'm really cautious because there is a part of me that thinks that maybe they are right. You know, maybe they are right. That's why I'm really friends with traditional Catholics. They are really good people. They have helped me a ton. If there is anyone that I admire, it is E. Michael Jones. He's not on YouTube right now, but you can see his Fidelity magazine. He has a magazine, Fidelity magazine. He talks a lot about pornography in in his book Libido Dominandi. Libido Dominandi. And basically, I had an addiction to lust. I was very lustful, and reading him, listening to him, helped me a ton to get over it. Uh, he's a very good man. He's a really good Catholic. I have him in a very high place, and so I am friends with a ton of Catholics. I think that they are really nice people. They have helped me with advice, sometimes with prayers, and well, I will tell you. I will show you. Give me a moment.
And
Um,
today's stream has been brought to you by the Orthodox Church.
I have with me right now. Uh, this is a rosary that I bought from a nun. You know, this is a rosary bought from a nun, and I have with me my komboshkini, which is like a prayer robe from Greece. So I always have them both. Like I have my rosary that I pray, and my komboshkini that I pray, and I have them on my hands too. I have here like a prayer robe from a nun that I bought too, and this is a komboshkini that my father, my father gave me, my spiritual father, my priest. So I always have these two because I am Eastern and Western in a sense. Eastern because I am Greek, and Western because I come from the Catholic Church. You know, so that's why I always have them just to remind myself. I pray the rosary. I am all for Western Rite Orthodoxy. I support them. And I think that the best way to understand the world, the best way to be successful in life, is to unite yourself with Christ, with the church. Just to because there is a ton of thinkers, there is a ton of people like Saint Benedict of Nursia. I think that Klaus is gonna like him a lot because Saint Benedict made the phrase "ora et labora," which means pray and work. And I think that that is the basis of our own Christian life, just to pray and to work. Through your work, you need to be with Christ, to be a light in the world, and through your prayers, you are working towards Christ. You know, that equivalence. And I think that that's how we should act. I think that that's how we should follow the saints. And it is harsh. It is harsh. Christianity is harsh. Like you need to stop drinking, but not because it is bad for you, but no, it is bad for you. You need to do it because uh, it is it is a sacrifice. You know, I'm gonna stop drinking because it's hurting my finances. It is hurting my wife, my mom, my family. I need to stop doing drugs because it is hurting myself. You know, you need not to fornicate because it is destroying your soul. It is getting you into trouble. It can lead to abortion. You need to stop being lustful because then you are not being concentrated on your work or on Christ. You need to stop sinning because it is harming you right now. Yeah, it will be harming you in the eternal life. So in that sense, I think that it is very important for us to clean ourselves of sins. And you cannot go through life without God's help. If you even you need God's help just to breathe. You know, just to breathe, you need God's help. And I think that the best it makes you humble. It teaches you how to treat with people, to try to be a good person. It's always a process, you know. We fall down, we get up, but God will show you the way. So Jesucristo, I have never smoked weed. I have never doing drugs. The only thing that will be near to that is whiskey, and whiskey is okay. Yeah, the thing is that when I drink, I like to drink a lot, so that's why I'm trying to to erase it. Liberation theology is a heresy, and I think that it is a malinterpretation of Christ's social teaching and how the society must be organized. I think that it tried to put socialism, basically Marxism, into theology, and we know that Marx basically was part of. Well, there is a trinity of evil: Marx, Nietzsche, and Lenin. They're both try to undertake logos, which logos is Christ, logos is knowledge, logos is basically a word, how we speak speech. It is the word in logos is the word in Greek, which means speech, knowledge, which means Christ too. When in John 1:1 it says, and Christ is the God is the word, God is logos, God is speech, God is how we communicate. And they try to undertake that. So getting Marxism into theology, you think it's a bad idea. It is a bad organization, and it is a way to put revolutionary thought in the people. So I am against liberation theology, even though it started here in Colombia. I am against it. So to start to answer to Stan's question, and then I'm gonna finish. I don't want to talk way too long. How do you get over your problems with loss? There is a way for loss. I will give this advice to young men. Hear me out. Pray to the Virgin Mary. Pray to the Virgin Mary all day, every day, any moment. Always repeat with yourself, Virgin Mary, save me. Virgin Mary, save me. Virgin Mary, save me. Christ, cleanse me. Christ, cleanse me. God, illumine my darkness. God, illumine my darkness. God, illumine my darkness. And you repeat yourself. You repeat yourself. Always pray your rosary before going to bed. Block apps on your cell phone. Block your computer from using it. Don't use it in your bed. Don't use your cell phone in your bed. Don't take it to the bathroom. If you're gonna use digital devices, be in public. Take cold showers. Practice a sport. Would it be powerlifting, bodybuilding, karate, capoeira, and I don't know, boxing? Practice a sport. Work, don't spend idle time. Idleness is the mother of all vices. Pray to the saints, pray to Saint Joseph for chastity, pray to God. And I would say that the best thing is to just ask for that help. Don't be in situations that you know they're gonna fall to loss. Like if you know if you go to a party and you're gonna get drunk and get with that girl, don't go to the party. If you know that if you get drunk, you're gonna get into a fight or you're gonna get in the lustful thoughts, don't do it. I think that the best we could do is just to avoid those occasions where you're gonna sin. And if you have friends that are always drinking, friends or female friends that you know that just want that bad part of you, then don't talk with them or just reduce the contact. You know, you can have friendship with women, you can be their friends, their brothers, but you have to avoid that. Pray to avoid those situations with with political sorry electronic devices. Don't use it way too much. And the other thing I would say is to fast, eat less meat, and pray while you're fasting, eat less food, and drink more water. You know, and to reduce your carnal desires. Fast, prayer, prayer to the Virgin Mary, prayer to Saint Joseph. Don't use your electronic devices way too much. Avoid temptations, avoid places or situations that you know are gonna end badly, and then you're good to go. I promise you that with that, in a month or 2 months, you will be cleansed for it.
In addition to that, I'd like to add that some constructive hobbies could be also very good. Something that I like to do is, sing or try to like make music or try to like, something that doesn't necessarily, and obviously music can lead to sin and debauchery. I'm not saying that it can't, but just singing to yourself like a little tune or something, or maybe even like a chant or something like that. Obviously, for some people it might be poetry, or some people it might be just keeping a diary or a journal and that type of thing. Something to kind of take your mind off of that internet craving, because it is a real thing, and certainly as children of modernity, we do suffer from that overexposure to a lot of things that we shouldn't be really exposing ourselves into. And then Inky says, yes, especially now during Advent, a penitential season. No celebrating until the evening of the 24th. Well, you tell that to a Colombian. They started drinking from the first, man. You know how many memes I saw? People like, llegó diciembre. Vamos a tomar hasta el 24, yo.
Yeah, that's why I like my word, you know. So that because I don't have because I work from Monday to Saturday, then I am not able to drink because I'm gonna go to the church on Sunday. So I have no energy, no time to to drink. So that's it. I would say that another thing that is good for you is to confess weekly. If you can, go to church daily, but go to church weekly, confess weekly, and tell to your priest your own sins. Like it is the best for you. It is best than going to therapy. It is best than going to a psychologist. It is best than go to therapy. Confess. Tell to your father. Tell him like, Father, I have sinned. I have been lustful. I have masturbated. I have watched porn. I have fornicated. I have done this and that and that. And you're gonna feel so relieved, and you're gonna be relieved. And he's gonna guide you through the prayers, through the rules. He's gonna guide you to that. That's a work that I am doing still with my priest, and I tell you that is the best. And just to, try to limit yourself because right now Christ is gonna be burned. So we are, as Inquisitor said, we are trying to fast right now. We are trying to celebrate the burn, the nativity, right? The nativity fast. Uh,
Unfortunately, I do have to cut it here because I have to wake up tomorrow and
oh, all
have
right,
to
that's
do
right.
the grind. But this is a very interesting talk, and I think we've never really had your perspective on a lot of theological issues in English. I know that your channel seems to be more focused on the Spanish speaking sort of population. So I think hopefully sometime this week, next week, sometime before the new year, we'll be able to talk again and then just go on a deep dive about theological issues. None of this politics stuff. Hopefully, I'll be able to get a part two of this with you as well, because I'm thinking of doing a part two of this miniseries a month before the election, because I know it's a little bit early right now to say who might win or who might. It's still very early, still very much salad day. So thank you very much for coming, guys, and thank you very much, Lucho, for coming. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel, Ortodoxia Latam. And hopefully, last part, we're going to have it with Julian about the left wing perspective. And then, the last part of the mini series, I'm going to talk about my opinion on the whole election. So, everyone, have a very good day. God bless, and everybody have a good one and good sleep. Peace out.